Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. Kyrie had known this day would come. For 10 years, he had played this scene in his mind 1,000 times. The door opening, her walking in. He had imagined her anger, her hatred. He was prepared for it. But he wasn't prepared for the quiet, weary sadness in her eyes, and it was a mirror of his own. She spoke first, her voice a low, steady current in the tense silence. "I need to know what happened that night," she said. "Not what the lawyer said, not what the paper said. I need to hear it from you." And so, for the first time, Kyrie told the whole ugly, pathetic truth. He didn't spare himself. He told her about the pride, the fear, the stupid, childish need to be seen as a man. He told her about the gun, how it had felt so heavy in his hand, how he had never intended to use it. He told her about the word little, and how that one simple word had been the spark that lit the fuse. "I panicked," he said, his voice raw with a shame that was a decade old. "It was 1 second, one stupid, cowardly second, and in that second I took your brother's life. And I have lived in that 1 second every single day since." Brianna listened, her face unreadable. She didn't cry, she didn't rage, and she just listened. She let his words wash over her. And in their brutal honesty, she felt the hard shell of her own hatred begin to crack. The monster she had built in her mind for 10 years was dissolving, replaced by the tragic figure of a boy who had made a mistake so catastrophic it had consumed his entire life. Then she told him about Sean, about the man he had been, his laugh, his kindness, his fierce protective love for her. She made him see the full, vibrant, and irreplaceable life he had extinguished. She made him feel the full weight of the hole he had left in the world. And as he listened to her, Kyrie began to weep, not the hot, angry tears of self-pity, but the slow, silent tears of a profound and bottomless grief. He wept for Sean. He wept for Brianna. He wept for the boy he had been and for the man he would now never have the chance to become. In that small, sterile visiting room, a strange and impossible alchemy took place. The two separate, isolated griefs began to merge to create something new. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't friendship, it was just a shared humanity, a recognition that they were both just survivors of the same shipwreck, clinging to the wreckage and trying to find a way to stay afloat. The visit wasn't about finding closure, it was about finding truth. And the truth, as brutal and as painful as it was the only thing that could begin to set them both free. The meeting in the visiting room was not an end, but a beginning. It was the first step on a long, slow, and uncharted path toward a different kind of healing. Brianna left that prison not with peace, but with a new, more complex understanding of her own grief. The anger that had been her shield for a decade was gone, and in its place was a vast, aching sadness. She would mourn her brother for the rest of her life. But she was no longer at war with his killer. She was at war with the senseless violence that had taken them both. Kyrie was also a changed man. Brianna's act of courage, her willingness to see him as a human being, had given him a gift he never expected and felt he didn't deserve. The gift of being seen. He had been a monster in his own mind for so long. But she had shown him that he was still a man, a broken, flawed, and remorseful man. And in that, she had given him a reason to try and be a better one. He poured himself into the prison's restorative justice programs. He became a powerful and credible voice against the kind of senseless violence that had defined his own life. He used his own story as a cautionary tale, a raw, honest, and brutal lesson in the true cost of a wounded pride. He and Brianna started a correspondence. Their letters were a slow, careful exploration of the territory of their shared tragedy. They were not easy letters to write or to read. They were filled with pain, with regret, with the hard, uncomfortable truths of their two intertwined lives. But they were also filled with a strange, unlikely, and profoundly human grace. Years passed. Kyrie came up for parole. Brianna was there. She stood before the parole board and she told them her story. She told them about the murder, the grief, the years of hatred, and she told them about the visit, about the letters, about the man she had come to know, a man who was living a life of profound and genuine amends. I will never forgive him for taking my brother from me, she said, her voice steady. But I also know that he is not the same man who pulled that trigger. He has spent the last 2 decades of his life trying to repay a debt that can never be repaid, and I believe he can do more good in the world than he can do in this cage. My brother was a good man. He believed in second chances, and for his sake, I believe this man deserves one. Her words were a thunderclap in the quiet hearing room, and they made a difference. Kyrie was granted parole. He walked out of those gates an old man, his youth a ghost he had left behind in a concrete box. He dedicated the rest of his life to working with at-risk youth. He and Brianna together started a foundation in her brother's name, a place of healing and hope for a community that had been shattered by violence. They had taken a story of senseless tragedy and they had together written a new ending. An ending of forgiveness, of service, and of a quiet, hard-won grace. And so we come to the end of the story of the cemetery shift. The long, lonely watch over a life that was lost, a story that reminds us that the aftermath of a crime is often a longer, more complicated sentence than the one handed down by a judge. Brianna could have spent her whole life in a prison of her own anger. No one would have blamed her, but she chose a different path, a harder path. She chose to seek understanding, not just vengeance, and in doing so, she found a way to be free. And Kyrie, he could have let the guilt and the shame consume him. He could have become another ghost in the machine, but he chose to face the truth of what he had done. He chose to live a life of amends. Their story is a testament to the power of restorative justice, a justice that is not just about punishment, but about healing, about bringing together the broken pieces of a community and trying to make them whole again. It's a reminder that we are all more than our worst mistake, that redemption is possible even in the darkest of places, and that sometimes the only way to heal our own wounds is to have the courage to face the person who wounded us and to see not a monster, but a reflection of our own broken, fragile, and profoundly human heart. The debt of a life taken can never be fully repaid, but in the long, hard, and courageous work of trying, both Kyrie and Brianna found a measure of peace. They had taken a story that ended in a dark, lonely alley, and they had given it a new beginning. A beginning of hope, of healing, and of the quiet revolutionary power of choosing grace over grief. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.